Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you live to episode number 15 of the Primetime Rundown Zoom interview series, part number 2 of Doubleheader Tuesday right here on the Eastern Observer. For those that were watching the Essential Wrestling Podcast episode number 4 with Al Carl, we really do appreciate you coming back and tuning in to part number 2 of the Eastern Observer's coverage of fantastic programming. Once again, I'm Joey Jarzynka. We cannot be grateful enough to have College Hoops Digest writer Jake Zimmer with us here on the Eastern Observer and the Blackjack Media Networks. Jake, how are you, buddy? It's really been a fun couple of weeks since we've last saw you on the podcast of the Primetime Rundown, and you look good, man. How you doing?
That's the nicest thing anyone said to me in a couple of weeks, for sure, Joey. But thanks for having me. I'm doing well. As I mentioned to you right before we went on, just got off a 2-hour road trip, I will, if you call it. Rhode Island's where I call my home, but I've been calling Connecticut home for the past couple of weeks with my parents. This is where I was born and raised, and I just walked in the door a couple of minutes ago. Just happy to talk some sports and do what we do best.
Yeah, exactly. And for those that do not know, but the podcast byproduct is this show, the Zoom interview series that we started following the pandemic, and we really do appreciate all of the guests that I've made. I've gotten in contact with, I've met along the way, and some that I call friends. And I'm really, really happy to have Jake Zimmer along here with me here on this Tuesday evening, 2 minutes past the top of the hour here on the East Coast. 8:02 is the time here on the East Coast. For those that do not recall, because we did not promote it last Thursday, we did have NBC Sports California's Brett Hedigan on the show. So for those that think that we haven't been on in almost 8 days, well, you are wrong. Definitely take a peek at our archives and see all of it. So again, we do welcome all of those who are tuning in live for the first time in almost 8 days. We cannot thank you enough. So Jake, so that after the 2-hour car ride, it's all about sports, and really it's all about you. That's what this show is all about. The interview series is to find out who everyone is beyond the game, really. And just to see who you are, to find out who you are, and to get to know people like you better in the industry that I have come across along the way. So Jake, let's get things started here. First off, how are you during this quarantine, and how is your family as well?
You know what? I'm good, and I must say I'm lucky to be. It almost feels like months ago, as soon as February and even March. I wasn't really. I was taking my job for granted, and my full-time job, that is. Complaining to my roommates all the time about having to get some stuff out to customers and meeting deadlines and things like that. And now how worlds have turned. I'm 2 months later, and I couldn't be thankful enough that I am in the situation that I'm in, where I can pay the bills, where so many millions of Americans and people across the world can't do that right now. So that's kind of how I'm doing. It's just grateful right now for sure. Family's good and healthy. All the friends are good and healthy. And that's really all you can ask for in these times. And certainly something I think if you asked, months ago, we would have been talking about other things. But this is what's on top of mind for now.
Yeah, it's crazy because just a couple of months ago, or actually we're almost going into June, and you and I met back in February at on the campus of Bryant University. And also for those that do not know how Jake and I met, is at Bryant University through my job at St. Francis College, Brooklyn. I'm the women's basketball sports information director, and I was up on a road trip, and Jake was the public address announcer for our women's game. And I couldn't believe it. The voice was fantastic. And also the craziest part is that the athletic marketing person is also someone who's actually from right around here, which is absolutely crazy. I went to school with her cousin. And for those that are watching that are from around here and went to high school, they know who Austin Quinn is, and that is his first cousin. Absolutely crazy stuff. So let's dive into who Jake Zimmer is. And first, you're originally from Southern Connecticut. So now what I want to know is how you ended up at Bryant University, because, obviously there's many, many other schools, and a small school like Bryant, really, to some, don't really light up the lamp, if you will. There's other schools like that you work at BU, BC, everywhere, in the Boston area, even if you went down a little bit and came here to New York, there's definitely opportunities in other universities / colleges that could have enticed you, but Bryant was the one.
Yeah, 100%. And this is actually an experience that I haven't even thought about. And, usually I'll think about it every, 6 months to a year, but haven't thought about it in quite some time, just how we ended here. Right. So originally that was the goal, go down to New York, go to Fordham, which was my first choice, go hop on the WFUV train while getting a really good degree in entrepreneurship or, some kind of business management role or, corporate finance or something. Fordham was really the only school that I had toured up until about March or April of my senior year of high school. Figured it was the perfect place to merge both the passions of mine, which was sports and, the just navigating through the business world. I was accepted to Fordham University, was accepted to Gabelli School of Business, and then we broke down the financials. And as you may know, Fordham, for as prestigious as it is, it's equally expensive. So, unfortunately, could have gone and probably could have pulled it off, but would have taken a massive hit in the student loan debt. And when I realized how much it really was, because people forget Fordham's pushing around $80,000 a year now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So had to restart the college search about a week before I had to make my deposit, believe it or not.
Wow.
So was working, with a couple of different schools. I narrowed it down to St. John's over in Queens and then Bryant. Toured both. I was looking for more of the smaller vibe where I really thought I could make a name of myself. And while I know I could have done that at St. John's, Bryant just felt a little bit different. Not as nearly, let's not kid ourselves, as robust a program as in sports as either St. John's or Fordham for sure. But Division I athletics, NEC, it still is what it is. There was a real opportunity to, like I said, stand out, make a name for myself. And that's where I thought I would fit in best.
Yeah. And, you could have actually worked with me at WSJU. That would have been,
exactly.
That would have been something. That would have been something if we would have crossed paths there. And you majored in leadership and innovation at Bryant. And, just by looking at your track record where, you went to the smaller school and, the road to becoming, Jake Zimmer and the big name Jake Zimmer, the road is a lot easier, to go through Bryant because, you have many more opportunities in such a smaller market. And, the way it is that you also have Boston, which is not too far from where you were there. And just by looking at some of the stuff that you've done, you served as an MC for the Special Olympics of Rhode Island for 3 consecutive years. You've called Division I men's lacrosse championships for the NCAA. You've also called men's soccer championships as well. You've also done stuff with the Big East as well, track and field championships right here at Icon Stadium on Randall's Island. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the aforementioned Boston University for Patriot League Network, and you also were on CBS All Access as well. So, like I said, the amount of opportunities you have to make, you not only make a name for yourself, but also you make the most out of every single opportunity, and especially at Bryant too, where we've seen where, and the smaller schools, the radio stations, or potentially you might have to blow dust off of it, and really, take full advantage of it. How did it all start for you, Jake? Because like I said, you served as an MC for the Special Olympics. What year was that for you? How old were you?
So the Special Olympics was a really unique kind of area too. That's something that was in college for sure. I had been asked by one of our fraternity brothers to basically MC the event at that point. I had been doing that in school for sophomore, junior, senior year. It was a Sunday morning. I do it with my best friend and my roommate. We get up at 7:30 a.m., head down to the stage. Obviously, no college student wants to get up at 7 o'clock on a Sunday, but a small sacrifice to make, small piece of the puzzle that we play in that arena for sure. I mean, it's a fantastic event. You have thousands of, I think probably pushing 1,000 attendees in the, in the years that it's been nice out. And of course, but people from all over Rhode Island, Southern Massachusetts will come down there, with the athletes, with the sponsors of the athletes and things like that. And they'll just have fun for the day. That's what matters. If we can hype them up for every 5 minutes, then that's the role that we play. It's so obscure and minuscule, but we love being a part of it. So that's something that we were going to do this year again. Unfortunately, the event won't be in person, obviously, given the pandemic. But that's not actually where it all started. To kind of to answer your question here, back in, and I'm not sure if my friends that I'm going to reference are watching this right now. They may be, so they'll appreciate it if so. St. Joseph High School was where I went to school in Trumbull, Connecticut. For 2011 to 15. And, I had always thought I'd be good at giving the sports broadcasting a try. I thought I had the voice for it. I thought I had the personality for it. So I bought a cheap mixer on eBay or something like that. Dragged two of my friends that I thought would be interested. I said, hey, just let me call this game and chime in with stuff. Do you want to be a part of that? They go, absolutely. Why not? We don't know what we're doing, but we'll do it. We had been given, by the grace of our athletic department, a nice little booth over at Alumni Hall at Fairfield University, where we were going to play the public school in town. And they just put us up there. We called the game, kind of screwed around for a bit. And my friends, were laughing about how bad they were. And I go, yeah, it wasn't a great work. They looked at me and said, oh no, you were really good. You should consider this. The rest kind of moved really fast. Got in with a company called hanradio.com over in Fairfield County that since evolved into Hersom Acorn Network. It's now defunct, unfortunately, but the individual that brought me in there, Rob Adams, is my mentor. Even now, the Hudson Valley Renegades play-by-play announcer over in New York. He was the broadcast director at the time, and kind of brought me under his wing, taught me how to control a call. He let me do play-by-play every now and then, every couple of innings in a baseball game, and really put me in a good spot to succeed for what was to come.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And just by not only that, but for those that do not know, Jake has the voice, the voice of God. That really is, it's unbelievable because, you hear it over the, you hear it over the airwaves of where Brian is at the Chase Athletic Center. My goodness, it is surreal. But now I want to ask you this, in all seriousness. Now, you said Trumbull, Connecticut. You obviously have Fairfield University, but you also have, not too far from there, Sacred Heart University. Now, to those that are watching, was Sacred Heart a possibility, speaking of an NEC school?
It was not to attend, but I have a very interesting background with Sacred Heart. I'm glad you brought it up. I grew up at Sacred Heart basketball games. I grew up at the Pitt Center. For some background, I've always been very good family friends with the former head coach Dave Bike over at Sacred Heart.
Yeah.
My mother actually grew up across the street from him. Was very good friends with his daughters and sons. So Dave was always a guy that I loved watching. I would go there with my dad and my grandfather. We'd sit next to Dave's wife, Judy, on the opposite side of the benches, on the Sacred Heart side, that is. And we would just watch the game, and I'd watch Dave Bike mercilessly scream at the referees every single call too. He was relentless. But that kind of turned me on to the NEC, and that they're, for as much of these high profile games, I mean, my favorite rivalry to watch growing up, in addition to UConn Villanova and UConn Syracuse, was Sacred Heart and Quinnipiac, and eventually Sacred Heart and Central Connecticut and LIU. So the prospect of going back to an NEC school as well, even with the sports aside, I was like, oh, cool, they're going to go get to play Sacred Heart. It wasn't really an option to go to school because it was too close, and I didn't want to be 15 minutes up the road from my family. So that's I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's a funny story.
Yeah, that's crazy, especially when like you said, you're close, and that really would be the thing that stands out, because a lot of people say A lot of people have said to me, well, why don't you go to a school like Stony Brook where they have a fantastic radio station? Why didn't you go to Farmingdale State College? It's small Division III school, but you can go right in there. Well, because, you have the exposure at St. John's, you have, I didn't have the grades to get into Fordham or whatever the case was, and things that you slowly regret, moving forward, but eventually, you climb your way out of the hole. Really, really good stuff, Jake. Now now the question to you really is now by going to Bryant, you wanted to do two things, which we spoke about off camera. And right before we started, you wanted to, you're juggling a lot right now with your work and also with what you love to do, which also you can consider work. Why was broadcasting not your major? And why did you go the leadership and innovation route?
That's a very good question. And to be honest with you, I was fully prepared by the time that I went to school to just kind of focus on getting a degree, going the business route, and being a sports fan. That was really what I thought was going to happen, because I knew that this line of work required a lot of work. It required a lot of connections, a lot of networking, a lot of repetition. And very well, as do I, that you don't really get adequately compensated for all that hard work.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a lot more we can say about it for sure.
Yeah.
But when it really took me a little bit to realize that I can do both, that, with the right amount of work and the right attitude and, just being a good team player, you can make both happen for sure. And that's what I started to realize as I got to Bryant. Got involved with WJMF, the student radio station. Nothing to write home about. It's no WFUV, WSJU, but they were looking for broadcasters. I was like, this is a perfect opportunity. It's low stress. You can do a little bit of prep work. You can show up. You don't have to be wearing a suit, all that stuff. And then I quickly realized, this is something I can do. If I want to pursue it a little bit, then with a tiny bit of work and, showing that you care even a little bit over the next guy, then you put yourself in a really good spot. And fortunately enough, the dominoes just fell into place. Got picked up by NEC Front Row after that as a student worker. Tristan Hobbs, the head of the athletic communications department over there, took a gamble on me. He saw kind of an unseasoned, or what I think, an unseasoned guy that sounded good on the radio and nothing more. And they took a bet that they could kind of teach me the way of, what it actually is to be in this industry and how you should behave around people, how you should act. And there were countless of those opportunities, especially at Bryant, that I don't think I would have got at a school like Fordham or St. John's or, somewhere in New York.
Well, I personally can disagree with you on that. And the reason why is because, you know what, you have to look at it and you have to say to yourself, well, you can do it. And if you put hard work into it, you're going to, this is what Brett Hedican told me, former Carolina Hurricanes defenseman who lifted the cup in 2006, is that you get out what you put in. And, you keep on going, and it doesn't matter what that person said behind there. Well, you can't do it. Well, guess what? I'm going to keep on fighting. I'm going to keep on competing until you get there. And, you say about FUV, and, we all know the lineage. We all know of how crazy it goes all the way from Vin Scully all the way down to Ryan Ruocco, with so many more in between. Mike Breen, Michael Kay, the list goes on. And you know what? Jake Zimmer could have been in there, but you know what? That's okay, because you eventually can get there. We all take a different road. It happens.
Right.
Right. And the reason why I bring that up is because, you were saying, you would have gotten the opportunity at Bryant. Again, it's just the exposure part, at Bryant would be a lot smaller, but you never know. Listen, the NEC, you have a lot of top tier schools in the NEC that, that a lot of people don't talk about, such as, Long Island University, LIU, St. Francis, Brooklyn. I'm not going to say, obviously, I'm unbiased. I will be unbiased here. And to be completely honest with you, they're a fantastic school with a lot of connections, because they are in the heart of Brooklyn. So,
Right.
there's a lot of, just by meeting people and, meeting me, whoever it is, there's just a lot of things that could potentially open that door. Really great stuff. And for those that do not know, WJMF 88.7 radio for Bryant Bulldogs men's basketball. Jake, that's what you were calling right away, men's basketball?
Yeah, it was a weird environment. We basically, there were 4 of us. It was a platoon of 4. They kind of eased me into it. They said, we're going to have you on. We'll have you. It was a D3 exhibition game. I think it was, might have been against Emerson College.
Oh, yeah.
First, right. Another great communication school.
Yeah.
A lot of the Rhode Island news folks, as a side note, came out of there. Shout out to Nick Coit. Shout out to Ian Steele as well. But they were playing Emerson, the Bulldogs. They said, why don't you come on and, give this thing a try? We'll put you on color. It's no stress. And they liked my work a ton. We hung up the headphones and he said, you got to be doing play-by-play. I don't care who you're with the next time, you're doing play-by-play. And we split up half the year. So 2 of us as a crew would do men's basketball in the start of the year. So for non-conference play, and then conference play, we swapped. A crazy story as well. So we had been assigned the men's basketball for the first half of the year. It just so happened that Bryant's first game of the year was in a little place called Cameron Indoor Stadium down in North Carolina.
Oh my God.
We were championing. Basically, we were championing pretty hard to get, down there, and I would have been on the crew, obviously, at that point. But unfortunately, things just didn't fall into place. The funding wasn't right. Little did I know, rather, I found out about a year later that the Duke athletic staff had the credentials waiting for us if we had gone down there. And if I knew a thing about this business, I would have thrown down there. So big missed opportunity that, I didn't understand what the effects were at the time, but, student run radio station, I don't, to be honest with you, think we were getting the resources that we needed at the point. But that's just something that haunts me every now and then for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, because especially when you have a game of that magnitude, regardless of whatever it is, non-conference and wherever it may be, at Cameron Indoor, there's no, and you know what? And I will say this is, that during, at times, when I was in college, there would be times, if I did have any little spare change, I would put it right towards that. And I would just say, you know what, listen, and not everyone has that ability. And I remember both my friend and I, who was our co-sports director, we threw in a little, chunk change here and there. And we went up to Providence. We went down to DC. We went down wherever, because the school, did they have the money? Yeah, they did. But, actually I could say it on here. It was that a part of the radio station was not only sports. Unfortunately, it was, more than just the sports. And, they didn't really want it, yada, 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 whatever. But the list goes on with that. But that's honestly wild. Now, I'm actually going to ask you this, and this is completely off script, is that did you guys ever travel with NEC Front Row? Have you guys ever traveled, or have you guys ever have you ever done anything like when you were a student?
So at NEC Front Row, no. Based on, as you probably know and are pretty aware of, it's mostly the member schools basically have it all together. And unfortunately, the TV deals didn't necessarily line up where where we could go
where
and
you
actually
guys travel.
Right, exactly. The TV deals weren't necessarily conducive to having another streaming platform in there. So we didn't travel. I bet you we probably could have funding wise, I think for sure. But on the other end of that, it just never lined up.
Right. Yeah, it's tough, because especially with NEC Front Row, and the reason why I asked that, I knew the answer to that question obviously was that, but the question that I did not, or that I wanted to ask you that I still do not know the answer of, was that when you were with WJMF and their radio station, which is, the student run radio station, did you guys didn't travel there? And did you guys ever travel at all, even close?
Not as a student, no.
Not as a student. Okay, because I was going to ask you, I was going to say, now, what would be the best road trip experience, but there was none. Okay, I got you. Yeah. Well, no, well, that's okay. That's, that's like I said, not everybody has that, has that opportunity, and it happens, but you have to make the most of whatever it is, wherever it is. Now, rewinding a little bit, similar to The Last Dance, which I'm assuming you saw. There's, right?
So believe it or not, I'm about to shock the sports community. I haven't seen it.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. Well, I wasn't even going to get into that. I was going to ask you that later on, but what I was going to say is, and I'll give you a little spoiler, is that it goes from here all the way back to here, which is what I've said to all my guests. And I said, all right, we're going to go here and then back to here. So with that being said, your time at WJMF at Bryant, all the way back to your time at high school, Greenwich, Connecticut, for the Greenwich High School Cardinals football team, AM 1490 WGCH in Greenwich. Tell me a little bit about that.
Right. Let me make a quick clarification here. I don't have the honor of having that title. All I have the honor on WGCH is a contributor. Okay. I was
still counts.
Yeah, it definitely counts. I think that was more so kind of a dividend of the relationship that I had with my mentor, Rob Adams. Rob and I, to take you back even further, as I mentioned, HAN Network in Connecticut, that was kind of the first, if we're going back all the way there, that's where I'd put the marker for sure. HAN or Hersum Acorn, that is they're basically the newspaper provider in Fairfield County. They are the overarching entity of, things like the Monroe Courier and the Easton. I can't even remember all the other newspapers around here, but they are basically the entity, and they decided that they're going to hop into the broadcasting of high school sports and whatnot. The FCAC, the Fairfield County Interscholastic Athletic Conference, some of the best competition in the Northeast. Yeah. They were going to try to make a plan of attack to cover most of the games. So Rob and I, I would go on a weeknight or a weekend. We'd go to wherever the games were. We'd call some baseball. We'd call some basketball. I was going to Stamford, Connecticut every, 2 weeks just to go and call some whoever was playing. I think it might have been Stamford, Norwalk occasionally, some Greenwich over there. And that was really a trial by fire. I will never forget my first game with them as Rob and I just went on Rob's show on WGCH actually a couple of weeks ago, and we were reminiscing about game one. It was a Laurelton Hall versus some other all women's school basketball quarterfinal in the state championship. I had never really even remotely done anything like sideline reporting, but he gave me a mic, gave me a transmitter and a headphone and said, here you go. We'll chime in with whatever you think is important. So if there's one memory that I can take from that game, they cut to me in maybe the third quarter of that game. And they said, Jake, let's check in with you. What's going on? And I absolutely panicked and said, nothing for me. Back to you guys. That was my first live event worth any value. And I was like, holy crap. But it is so fun to look back on those things because, so raw. And so, coming at the industry with, no experience, you hop into that first game and it's like, all right, you just have to think on your toes. It teaches you kind of to be comfortable with not knowing what's next and the ins and outs of live production. So
yeah, it's wild because the moment you first go on the air and then all you think of is, oh my gosh, I'm really gonna mess up on live television or or on live radio. It's chilling. Honestly, it's suspenseful almost. You think of you just think that if you mess up, thousands of people are going to hear you, hundreds of people are going to hear you, tens of thousands are going to hear you mess up, and it takes time. And again, you have clearly blown it all out of the water because you've been picked up by the Patriot League Network, CBS All Access. As I said, the aforementioned NCAA championships, lacrosse, soccer, Division I men's. You've also done women's basketball. You've done women's soccer. You've done baseball, softball, volleyball. You've done it all. But then the craziest part that I want to know is that you have said, and I've read this a little bit, and you are, quote, the youngest lead public address announcer for any NCAA Division I men's basketball program. Now, I want to ask you this, Jake. I am beyond amazed at that. I am. But now, where can we find this history, Jake? How do we know this?
So I will compliment that with, that is not an official title given to me by any entity. What I can tell you is that, I went and did the work. I sat down and said, who's the PA people for all the Division I programs?
Wow.
I was able to dig up a lot of that info, which is good. I will leave it at this. There is no evidence to suggest that that's a false claim. And we'll leave it at that.
That's too great. That's fantastic, because, you never know. You might have some random 18-year-old, who might take over that spot now. That would be something.
What I'm going to do is keep that title until someone tells me that that's not accurate, and we'll go from there. But I do know, I started off in the Northeast and said, there's no one really, because typically the PA work is reserved for, the people that are older in their careers. You look at a guy like Frank Carpano for Providence College, who he's like an idol pretty much to me, right?
Yeah, he's good. He's very good.
Yeah, and I mean, he's not only is he good, the man's earned his stripes too, and you kind of have to at that level for sure. And again, beyond blessed that I get to go to work and have the opportunity to do something that a lot of people my age don't. It's a wonderful, wonderful industry. In the fact that we get to live people's dreams. People grow up watching sports and see, I want to be a broadcaster. I want to be one of the guys that yells and screams in the ring in boxing, or, reads the starting lineups at basketball games. The fact that we can do stuff like this is incredible. But back to the original question, I'm going to keep saying that until someone tells me that's wrong.
That's fantastic. But especially now, during this pandemic where people need the uplift, they need the spirits, the positive spirits for sure. And this is what we do. This is the reason why we do what we do, because we want to make sure that, we have, we put smiles on people's faces. At times, unfortunately you just can't remove the frown, but you do the best you can. And, for a project like what I'm doing here with the Zoom interview series, but then also with what you're doing as well, which is a podcast of your own, which we'll get to, we'll give just the headline, Beers, Business, and Balls. We'll get there in a moment. What I want to know now is we were talking about, as if you're just joining us now, 8:33 Eastern time, on the East Coast. You don't have time to do everything, Jake, but coincidentally, you do actually. End result is that you have time to do literally everything, and that includes being a leader and an innovator at Schneider Electric. So now, your love for sports, your original love, which is to be a broadcaster, or wherever it is, or was it your original love? Give us a little bit more background about how you got to Schneider Electric and how you fit all of that into what you're doing now, and how you have become the lead public address announcer at Bryant, how you've been on CBS All Access. How do you do all of that and do research, etc.?
It's a great question. I think when I read this as a potential question here, that had me thinking a little bit, where does this all fit in? And I had realized that this year alone, I've been at Schneider for now almost a year, started back in July after I got the degree in May. My first job at Schneider Electric, I've since moved into a new role. It's a little bit of a different business unit, more day-to-day kind of difference in the two jobs. My first role there in the rotation of the program that I was in is basically a frontline sales support rep. And basically, I'd be fielding some inbound calls of people that, were looking for product selection and configuring a solution of, technical applications and things like that. And I kind of wondered where that fits into this entire portfolio. The beginning of that role terrified the absolute crap out of me. I by no means have a background in electrical engineering or data center products or uninterruptible power supplies. It's scary stuff. And our customers are all distributors. They're engineers, they're electricians or contractors, and they like facts. They like to be told, they like to be not BS'd pretty much. So it's a very daunting task. And I would get into work every day for the first couple of weeks and dread not knowing what I was getting into, who I was going to talk to that day, who was going to call us up and ask for help or, tear into us and they're not satisfied or whatever. But then, obviously the weeks went by, I got more comfortable with what I was doing. And I realized over this past year, I actually think that's made me a better broadcaster and a better live public address announcer too. When you put on those headphones or you start reading that script, you have no idea what's about to happen. You don't know who's watching if you're broadcasting. You don't know how many people are in the building if you're a PA announcer. You just have to do it. You have to do what you know you're good at, and the rest will fall into place. And yeah, there's going to be times where you screw up. I screwed up plenty of times this year, as anyone that is in my close circle will attest to. They'll know that I've had a bad game. They'll know in my reaction where I'm just, it could be a big win for Bryant and I didn't think I did well, or maybe I made a mistake and a coach noticed something, and which has happened plenty of times in every role. But I actually think that unknown of, not knowing what you're about to walk into that day or that week or that meeting has made me a lot better of a broadcaster and a PA announcer.
Yeah. And just by, and every little bit, it can eventually make you who you are today, whether it be a broadcaster or a human being, whether it be with Schneider Electric, where you have completely no idea with, not what you're doing. But now the question to you is that while here you go, I'm assuming someone obviously takes you under their wing and, you have to learn little bits. Now with, again, leadership and innovation being Jake's major and broadcasting being your not your sole focus, but your focus in life, and going down this road, when you were at Schneider Electric, how difficult was it to learn everything that you had just explained to us? How difficult was that to learn? And did you feel like you were going to mess up, not achieve? What was the I would say the attitude that you brought every day?
Well, it was immensely difficult. I'll tell you that. I won't sugarcoat it. I had a degree, as we've been talking about, in leadership and innovation, and I had worked, on an innovation team for a commercial property insurance company. I had done software product development, and then I took a job in sales to start off my career, pretty much. And to be honest with you, the uncertainty and the unknown, after getting trained and whatnot, that disappointment, it made me almost feel like I was settling too. It made me feel like I was in a role that I just wasn't, that I was overqualified for, which all of those together really put a huge burden on me those first couple of weeks, for sure. But the attitude there is that, I looked around back when we actually went to work and had an office. Seems like so long ago, but I would walk around and, talk to colleagues and some other employees, and they were in similar situations as I was. It helped a ton to know that everybody had been in those situations before, and that every single problem that somebody encountered, it's not new. And that's the same in really any environment, agnostic of any kind of industry. I think we see that in sports as well. Every single problem that feels like it's weighing on you, I'm sure more as an SID, thinking that that it's the end of the world and it's an unsolvable problem. And, there's every excuse in the world for, both of those environments. It's like, no, I need to get this out to the customer on one end. And, for someone who's in athletic communications, it could be, no, this coach is just impossible to work with. You wouldn't understand, whatever the scenario might be. As you laugh across, I'm sure you've had too many of those experiences with whatever, but
oh boy, no comment,
like,
no comment.
but it's the message is awfully relatable, I think, and that's something that every single job I'm going into it's a good attitude to have. You show up at a Division I basketball game in a quarterfinal of a conference tournament, and the power goes out and you have no mic. You can't freak out. You just have to learn with it and say, all right, what can we do to solve it? You can't be freaking out saying, oh my God, I can't announce that this is the team's 7th foul and it's a 1-and-1. You have to just let it fly. You have to, have that right state of mind where you can just approach it with a clear head and go from there. So, I mean, I really think that it's the attitude that I picked up there, which is kind of nothing is that overwhelming that nobody knows what you're going through.
Yeah. Yeah. That's honestly the best advice that you can give to anybody. And throughout this pandemic too, you have, and this is, I want to skip around a little bit and as a perfect segue with this, during this pandemic, you have people that have been, needing to get out of the house, aspiring sportscasters, aspiring business people, salespeople, just to think of, well, I can't do this because who's buying anything right now? Who's doing anything right now? And it's tough on people's mental health, on people's physical health, because they can't do it, or they think they can't do it. Now, I was going to ask this question later, but I think it fits perfectly right now. Now, your advice to any person who's going through this pandemic right now and is having a hard time is what?
That's a great question. It's a
powerful question. It's a powerful question. And I have asked all of my guests now because truthfully and honestly, and I asked Brett Hedigan too, because you have to, it's a very moving question, especially when, there's people, and I've asked, and I'm behind the Terriers that I've been doing on a separate project. You ask all these coaches, and it's a tough question. And the exact reaction that you just gave now is what I've gotten from almost everybody, because it's tough when you don't want to give the wrong thing. But again, it's just a generalization type question. So let's hear your thoughts on the aspiring person to try and get out of a potential funk that they may have.
Right, and I think you're exactly right. No one really knows how to react to that question. The initial reaction is, go and, you have to realize that everybody else is doing we're in the same situation. I get it. I've heard it enough. So that's not the route I want to go. Trust me. I think just looking back on these past couple of months, when I've been frustrated or, want to get out or something like that, it's very good to remember, for me personally anyway, that there's life outside of this. Your friends are still your friends if they, care about you, and if they're, if it's a true friendship, of course. Go and go catch up with people. Go and talk about what you're going to do after this. I know I talk to my roommate every day. I talk to as many friends as I can throughout the day, and check in, see how they're doing, see what they're up to, and see what is fueling them to get out of the house. And it's not to say that it's pitting it on them and say, oh God, he's going out for a run, I should probably do that. It's about just catching up because, when my friends have checked in on me and my family and to see how everything's going, it put a smile on my face for sure. I've been fortunate enough to hop on Zoom calls instead of going out to the bars on Saturday nights like we usually do in Providence. Come to our place for a couple of drinks, hit the Ubers, and wherever the night takes us, we end up. It's now transition to let's grab a couple of drinks, let's hang out, maybe take a shot or two together on the video conference, right? But it's small stuff like that I think I'm going to look very fondly upon this when August, September comes and we're living close to a normal life, hopefully, that I think is what's going to get me through this. So that would be the best advice I could give to somebody. Go and realize that your life still exists outside this, and this is just a small phase.
Yeah, it's very difficult, especially in this field, because you can get easily diverted of you're sacrificing a lot, and then eventually you're 40 and you missed
Right.
out on a lot of time, and and I don't mean to all joking aside, it's the truth, because again, and I'll give a little preview of the episode number 4 Behind the Terriers for those that are watching. We spoke with women's basketball head coach Linda Simino, and something that she said was that, she sacrificed a lot of her time with her family, who's actually up in Rhode Island. And it's tough, especially now when you want to go see your family when you're down here in Brooklyn, and it's very difficult, when you're still around people, but also you don't want to get your parents sick or your mother sick or sister or whatever she has. And, because of the constant travel or putting so much effort and work into it, sometimes it's very difficult to realize that there is a life outside of this industry. It's so difficult, and you have to make sure that, that you are aware of it, moving forward, because, again, you can forget about your family. And then again, years have gone by, people passed away. And again, I don't want to make this a negative thing, but it really, but you know what, Jake, it really is the truth though, especially.
And you make a great point. And I have something that I think fits in nicely here too. Yeah. It's especially being in the situation that I'm in, and so many other, kind of the part-time sports writers or freelance workers or anything like that. I'll go to work, and Monday through Friday, I'll work my 8 to 5, and then I'll find myself on Wednesdays or maybe a Thursday sprinkled in. I'm leaving early, and when people ask what I'm doing on my paid time off, it's not going on a vacation or something like that. It's not going out to the beach for the weekend. It's no, I'm working. It's when you're not working, you're working. So.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing, right? And especially, but you know what, though? You do have solid time management, it seems, because I know for me, I get diverted in working in, with this, and then I completely just get whatever. And then my mom's like, "Oh, you want to hang out or whatever?" "Oh, no, I'm still working on this." All right, well, at some point you gotta make some time. So, now the question to you and everyone else that wants to know, because on the graphic, you are College Hoops Digest contributor / writer. Well, who the hell is College Hoops Digest, and how did they find you?
That is another great story, and that's, as you know, a recent endeavor of mine.
Yeah.
A fun known fact about, I say fun and known. That's a weird combo. Fun known, huh? I think I was trying to say unknown and fun, but I guess it just combined into one.
Well, Webster's.
Right. Oh, God. But I went to college with a now good friend of mine, Dan Gardella, high school with Dan Gardella over at St. Joe's in Trumbull. And Dan and I, we were friendly in high school. Now we've obviously grown a lot more closer with our endeavors running into each other. But I saw his work, saw that he was writing for a blog that was covering college basketball. This summer, we reconnected a few times just based on our endeavors and linking up with each other. And I had asked him, how everything was going, and brought up that I would be at a lot of college basketball games this winter. So offered to see if they need any help. I'd be going to, I live a mile away from the Dunkin' Donuts Center, and right in between Providence College and the Dunk is my apartment. So figured, if there's any way I could help out, not even about getting compensated or anything, just flexing the writing muscle a little bit, getting to some real hardcore, high major Big East Division I basketball. That's what that was all about. Got connected with Josh Adams, the managing editor over there, a fellow, a great New Yorker, I must say. Covers the Seton Hall beat for his website. And, we hit it off instantly. And he said, I'd be happy to bring you on, and we'll get you the credential at Providence. And let's cover some Big East basketball. So that's what's been going on.
That's crazy. Yeah. Josh Adams, really, really good guy. Met him in my time at St. John's, and
Sure.
And then now covering, with me covering Seton Hall, on a full-time basis, I've been with Josh almost the whole year. It's absolutely crazy. And then to know, and then to know that, these same exact guys that I know, and just from my time growing up in the Big East and knowing Jaden Daly, John Fanta, Josh Adams, it's absolutely crazy to see how small this world is, and now you are a part of it, Jake. It's really, really crazy and good stuff. But now I'm going to ask you this question, and because now you said that you reconnected with Dan Gardella and another great guy that I've met a few times. It's wild because you want to help out, you want to do all this, but now again, Schneider Electric. Again, you've been working there for a year. That you said you just came up on a year. Am I right? Because I believe you got a little.
I'll be close. I'll be close. It'll be in July.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So we're about 11 months and change around there, or 10 months and change, if you will. So Schneider Electric, and then you being a freelance. And then on top of you being a freelance broadcaster, you're now a freelance journalist. Now I really want to know this because this is fantastic stuff. You're doing a lot. I get now that there's nothing. There's literally nothing. So how are you dealing with the whole nothing as opposed to a whole lot in such a small time span, especially with Providence College going on that run? And you, my friend, were supposed to be at Madison Square Garden, damn you.
No, don't remind me. I think I just was reminiscing with my roommate about this a couple of days ago, and we honestly talk about it probably every week at this point, but I'll never forget, Joey, I walked out of my apartment on Wednesday morning. My plan was going to be, because our office is in Kingston, Rhode Island, down near URI, pack the bag up. I had my hotel booked Thursday and Friday night right downtown in the city, packed it all up. I said, I'll see you on Sunday. Hopefully Providence will be coming back with a ring. My roommate had just bet a ton of money on the Friars. That's a side note, but he was, in a good mood. They were about to go on a run. They were, they had one of the best, as a side note, one of the best recoveries of a season, I think, in league history, in the Big East for sure.
We'll get to that in a few seconds. Oh yeah.
Of course.
Oh yeah. There's more I want to know. And there's more that I want to know about you and Providence, but we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, go ahead with that. Yeah.
Yeah, but packed the bags up, saw the cancellations throughout the day, kind of juggling through some emails and phone calls and scrolling through Twitter on my phone to pass some time at work. And, the one tournament after another came in and said, either no fans are getting canceled, and made the wise decision to come back and say, you know what, I'm going to play it by ear. Thursday morning, I'll make the call. That Wednesday night, though, we reminisce all the time. It's going to be one of those moments where you knew exactly where you were and what tweet you saw. I first saw Woj's tweet, Adrian Wojnarowski from Yahoo Sports, I think at ESPN. The NBA has suspended its season, and a period. And that was it. And we looked at each other and we were in awe. We were dumbfounded. And that was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah. No, and you know what? March 11th and March 12th, I'll never forget where I was. And both times I was at Madison Square Garden. And, it's crazy because, I thought about it. And I remember I think I was talking to you for a little bit about it. And I had texted you, did you make the trip? No. And for obvious reason, for everybody that was still coming, especially for Seton Hall that night, Seton Hall Marquette, would have been the rematch of the year before, which was phenomenal, throwing punches type game, whatever. And it's sad to say that, the world stopped turning that night almost, in the sports world. And exactly what, a lot of people have said this to me. And it's, I don't want to take this lightly, but, it's similar to like a catastrophe. A lot of people say to me, well, Joe, you're always going to remember where you were March 11th and 12th. We knew exactly where we were on 9/11, and it's just and I hate to make that comparison, but you have to realize though, is that during this pandemic, a lot of people have passed on, and this is a pandemic. This is not, this is not a little dinky thing. This is something that is affecting the whole world. And, and again, I'm not undermining 9/11 at all. I'm just saying, you remember exactly where you were at that moment in time, the moment the plane hit, the moment you saw that tweet, Jake. You said, NBA suspended its season. And if you work in the sports industry, boy, you will never forget it. And, I'm 24 years old, about to be 25 in a couple of months. I'm not that young where, it's ever gonna, I'm never gonna remember it when I'm, God willing, I make it to 80 or whatever. It's going to be in there. And just remembering Rudy Gobert touching everything and whatever the case may be. And, and then the next day, 35-32 or 38-35, St. John's and Creighton. The eventual Big East champions, if you will, as some people have said, because, they led the number one seed Creighton without Marcus Zagorowski. But yeah, crazy stuff, man. And again, I'm really happy that, that you're safe and you made that wise decision and not coming down to New York, because it turned out to be obviously the country's epicenter. And we all had no idea, masks were not told to be worn yet. And we don't know what was going around there at the time around the Garden, because, that is almost the nation's hub right there, is Penn Station and everything, and goes all around the country right from there. So I really do hope next year for you get to come to the Garden and you'll be seeing 11 teams. Now, Jake, I'm going to ask you this. With Big East Media Day, we don't know, obviously, with fall sports. We don't know with winter sports. And obviously, we're going to find out if winter sports, I think we're going to figure it out. This is just an opinion on my part, which nobody really cares about. We tune in on Friday nights for that, for me. But I will say this because you're on here, we'll find out, with the NBA and everything, coming back, and we'll see if college returns. There's UConn president came out a few months ago, or a few weeks ago, rather, feels like months ago, and had said that all of the fall sports there are canceled. So we don't really know what the deal is. I was going to say, if there is a Big East Media Day, are we going to see you there?
That's a very good question. I think if the number one factor is if the schedule allows, I'll be there. If
Schneider Electric better be giving you the day off.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've got some PTO stashed for a couple of days that I'm assuming I'm going to be working, and assuming that I'm going to be calling a game somewhere or doing something to support the sports side, because God only knows I took plenty of those days in January and February. So.
Oh yeah, exactly. Now I want to ask you this. So I see in the background there, I see you have just to your left all of Providence College over there. Now, to me, it looks like there is, yes. Now, are those are your credentials?
They are, yes. So that
Wow.
was a new talk about things to make do of while you're in quarantine. I had all these credentials and whatnot on my wall in my apartment, before this had all started. So took them off the wall and said, I'll put them on a poster board. And then did that. I've got some really cool stuff up here. I've got some stuff from the Hall of Fame tip-off from Mohegan. Sat courtside for Virginia and Arizona State back in November. That was incredible. Virginia actually beat them 47-45 that game.
Yes, that game was wild.
Yeah, and that was really the first time that I represented College Hoops Digest somewhere that wasn't the dunk, pretty much. So that was a beyond cool experience. And then over here on this side, got some baseball tickets as well that were just sitting in my childhood room. Said, put them on the poster board as well. So ideally, they'll get a frame. We do have a spare room at our place up in Providence that we're going to transform into a little beer making studio, podcast studio, whatever we're calling it. These will find a nice home on the wall, and there's going to be plenty more of these as the year go on.
I love it. Yeah, because that is a fantastic poster board there. I see, and obviously you're a Yankees fan. We'll get into that in just a moment. But also, I do want to bring this up because this is something big that you have begun to do in your time off, Jake. And Beers, Business, and Balls is I've heard it. It's actually really, really great. Your hashtag is the house always wins. It's available on Anchor, Spotify, and SoundCloud, and also, ladies and gentlemen, on Instagram at the.bbb.podcast on Instagram. So let's hear how Beers, Business, and Balls all started.
So my roommate and I have been dying to do a podcast, and we kept saying, you know what, we'll start in a couple weeks. And then based on what we had just talked about, I didn't really have time to dedicate to brainstorming what a podcast would look like.
Yeah.
We're doing what we think we're good at. We know craft beer really well because, number one, we drink a lot of it. But number two, we just started making it too, as a quick hobby, just to share between our friends and our family members. And it's not half bad. It's drinkable, and it's not going to kill you. No one we know has, thrown up from it. So that's a good sign. But, we're putting our expensive business degrees to good use. We're diving on what's going in the market. And we're also just talking sports, which we also think we're good at too. So, and I like to think that between the two of us, we know a lot of interesting people as well. Not just people. I think a big point that we're trying to push for is we're trying to get people that really aren't in the sports industry pretty much, that aren't the typical, journalists or broadcasters or whatever it is. We're trying to find some, if you're in sports, you got to have something interesting, right? We had Dave Silverman on a couple of weeks ago, who's a good friend of ours. He's a lead photographer for the Patriots, and his stories from a photographer's perspective about guys like Tom Brady and whatnot. And he's very close with guys like Teddy Bruschi and things like that too. Nothing short of incredible. And we had people, text us and DM us on everywhere where the podcast was available and say, that guy was awesome. Have him back on. That's what we're trying to do. An easy listen, learn a little bit about business. And, obviously we'll talk to stuff that everyone wants, which is sports, and give our takes, but not really about that. It's more of how, who we can find that is going to make people say, wow, I hope they get someone else like this guy.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely. And you know what? You have to broaden your horizons as well, because, you have to think about it. Everyone has sports, and that's why you have to think outside the box, because if you don't, you could be stuck right in that middle, right in that, I would say no man's land, if you will. And you could be just like with the rest of them and just sitting in purgatory, so you have to be one up ahead of everybody. And really that is fantastic. So again, for those that are just joining us here, Beers, Business, and Balls at the.bbb.podcast. Is that right?
That's on Instagram, and then just replace the dots with underscores on Twitter. Honestly, you say it better than I do, because I screwed up every time at the end of the episode, and my roommate calls me out. He goes, "No, you flipped him around." So I'm like, well, you know what? Yeah, so we might have to hire you to do the social media reads at some point.
Oh boy. I don't know. That's a lot of pressure, Jake. Thank you very much. Oh boy. So now as we get into the final, in the final 7, 8, 9 inning roll here, of this interview here. First off, I can't thank Jake Zimmer enough for being on here and taking his time. Been on here for almost 63 total minutes, and really I do apologize for listening to Jake and I ramble on for 63 godforsaken minutes, because if you haven't clicked off yet, I don't know what you're waiting for.
You deserve an award of some sort.
Exactly. There you go. Right. Yeah. Well, all joking aside, though, I do want to, and please, people, please do stay aboard. Please do not go anywhere. But what I do want to ask you, though, is that out of all the buildings that you've been in, besides the Chase Athletic Center, between the Dunkin' Donuts Center, between the William H. Pitt Center, so the two buildings that I just mentioned were obviously NEC buildings, and one being a Big East building in the Dunkin' Donuts Center in downtown Providence. Any other buildings that you've been to that maybe would be better than the aforementioned three?
I'll tell you what, there's something to me about Gamble Pavilion, if we're talking basketball, yes. Up at UConn. It's not the most glamorous building for sure. It kind of looks like Epcot from the outside if it were made, maybe if it weren't revitalized in years and, got stains coming down the side, whatever. I just I loved the atmosphere of Gamble growing up. I loved watching basketball there. The way that just the acoustics were. I mean, it's just incredible. I also think the Garden has to be up there. Realistically, I'm doing it an injustice if I don't say that. But I will tell you, I might take a little bit of a different direction on it. Moving away from basketball, I think the venue in general that I'm most stunned by this year that was new to me was BU, Nickerson Field. Absolutely incredible venue. And not the most glamorous. Again, it's not. It doesn't have the state-of-the-art new seating. It doesn't have, a big and beautiful training facility or anything like that. But the history, I mean, it's incredible. You have first of all, you stand up in the press box. It does feel like you're in 1900 because there's no heat while you're broadcasting a game, which really stinks. Yeah. Now, I will say, when you're doing the PA at Nickerson Field, that's the only room in that press box that's heated. So I tried to take as many PA roles that I could up there. But you look out, I'm picturing it now. You look out at Nickerson Field. To your left is a big, I think it might be brick wall that says the big red block letters that say Boston across it. Ivy coming up the bottom all the way up to the top of this wall, carved out just enough so you can see the Boston in there. And then right above that brick wall is these three, I believe they're dorms and, residence halls pretty much. They go up probably, 30 floors. And someone's going to have to fact check me on this, but the view to the left, stunning. The view to the right, you can kind of see some of the Boston skyline. I mean, they've got a big, beautiful scoreboard out there. It's just that's been my favorite new place this year that I've been to, purely just for the history. I mean, they had a football team there back in the day. Their soccer program is one of the most elite. I had the opportunity to do play-by-play for some of head coach Neil Roberts. It was his last year. 35 years with that program, and little did we know that was going to be his last year.
Wow.
Shameless plug for me. I was calling the game where they were 0-9, and they won in a double overtime free kick, pretty much. So I'm not going to say I'm good luck, but that is one of many venues that I got to experience this year, and absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And just just to fact check here, just by on courtesy of GoTerriers.com, the Boston University Terriers, Nickerson Field, men's and women's soccer, men's lacrosse, women's lacrosse, seating capacity, 9,871. Also, the Patriots. Yes, the Patriots. The Patriots. They played there for 3 seasons, played the first American Football League game in history on Friday night, September 9th, 1960, against the Denver Broncos.
Wow.
Yes. So you, sir, have been put in a brand new modern press box where, as you said, also a brand new HD video board that it says on here is valued over more than $500,000. That's pretty good stuff there, and especially because you said you attested to it. A fantastic video board is what you said. So that's that really is good stuff. So now that we've found out who Jake Zimmer really is, because we don't have much to look forward to, I have to ask you this, because summer is coming quickly, and we are the day after Memorial Day, which we did say in your promo the entire time. The day after Memorial Day has gotten a whole hell of a lot better, but you have to realize that July 4th is coming real quick, and we have to enjoy some sort of ice cream. Well, I have asked all of my guests this question. So, and that includes on every single podcast I've done, including Behind the Terriers. That also includes here too. So we'll give you a little bit of background. So women's basketball head coach for St. Francis Brooklyn Terriers on Behind the Terriers, episode number 4, said, little spoiler alert for those who have not seen the episode yet, favorite ice cream flavor is mint chocolate chip. NBC Sports California and former NHL defenseman Brett Hedican, his favorite ice cream generally is Americone from Ben and Jerry's. Also, men's volleyball, St. Francis College Brooklyn Terriers head coach Nico Lambert says that he does not like ice cream and loves Tostitos with scoops with Tostitos salsa. No disclaimer there. And also, former NFL wide receiver Cecil Shorts III has also said that mint chocolate chip is his favorite. And in addition, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I will conclude with this. Jaden Daly from Daily Dose of Hoops, his favorite is coffee flavored. Now, I want to know, Jake Zimmer, to add you to this list, what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Well, I'm proud to say that of the group you just listed, I will not be picking one of those, which is good. Although, I would personally love to share a favorite ice cream flavor with Cecil Shorts. That sounds fantastic. I have been on a quest these past couple of weeks to find some good cookie dough ice cream. Because that is my beyond, not even a question, my favorite. I think a big gap between that and like a cookies and cream kind of deal.
Okay.
I found some pretty good cookie dough ice cream at Fairacres Creamery up in Newtown, Connecticut. That I think is the best that I've had in quite some time, to be honest with you. I love it. I love cookie dough. I'm not one of those what I believe are psychopaths that eat it raw. And, it's probably just as bad to eat it in ice cream, but I'm pretending it's not, because why not? Who's watching? So cookie dough is got to be it. I think if you get recommendations from this, by the way, if you have some viewers DMing you and saying, here's the best cookie dough ice cream, I'm going to have you ship it up to me, because it'll probably
absolutely. I'll have to definitely let you know. Screenshot that for sure. So now we're going to conclude this. You obviously said you weren't watching The Last Dance. Now I do have to ask you this, because you do go from Providence, to Southern Connecticut where your parents are, now obviously, because you are commuting, doing that, in this spare time or quarantine, if you will, have there been any movies that you've been catching up on, Netflix series, house projects, quality family time, etc.? Is there anything else that you have been doing with your family, or simply that you've been looking to accomplish that you can say is accomplished now during this whole pandemic?
Well, I mixed in a lot of those, which is good. I think there's nothing that immediately stands out and say, I accomplished XYZ, but checked a lot of those items off. I had been dying to finish Westworld because I started it, and I couldn't. I was in that purgatory where it was episode 2 and 3, and I kept falling asleep while I was watching one episode because it was too early or something like that. But I was able to sit down and finish it, which is good. Started Ozark 2 now.
Yes,
I must say that's a really good show. So looking forward to that. But yeah, I mean, catching up with the family's been great. My mom mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. When, when other time would we all kind of have together? I have 2 younger sisters as well. One of them in college, the other in high school, and we wouldn't really all have this time. These past couple of months. So good to take some silver linings out of there. I've been cooking a little bit. I will say it's been mainly my mom, but have been chipping in where I can. I've been trying to stay competitive in that market because I was making some pretty good dishes on top of all this stuff on whenever I had the shot to do it. And I haven't been cooking enough. I will say I need to cook a little bit more because I'm afraid I'm going to lose my touch. But and then just chipping in where I can outside the house. Power washing a couple chairs, painting. Only the fun stuff, and then of course rewarding myself with a nice cold beer on the patio after.
There you go. Well, you can't forget at night though that cookie dough ice cream though. That's you have to do that. You have to do that, man. That's fantastic. That's really good. But now we have to ask this, because every little tidbit you're giving us, we need to know what you're cooking and what that dish is, because we need a taste, a slice of life, if you will.
If you ask a lot of my friends, they'll tell you that my signature dish is like a nice risotto.
Okay.
It's a risotto with some white wine, some pancetta, actually pancetta or prosciutto, whatever you so fancy. I like cooking with pancetta a little bit better because it's a little more flavorful. But a little zucchini, some little bit of grated cheese, so some Parmesan, and pair it with a nice glass of wine, and it's just phenomenal. And maybe if you're really getting into it, a steak or a piece of chicken or something.
I like that. So you're going the Italian dish route. I really like that. That's that's pretty good.
Yeah, I actually something we haven't covered through all this. Actually, my junior year, amidst all this, I was lucky enough to be able to do a semester in Florence, Italy. So came back and just kind of got back into the swing of all this, of course, but figured, when's the next 3.5 months I'm ever going to have in my life to go and just pack up and do that and still have all these things to come back to. So
that's fantastic. That really is fantastic as well. But Jake Zimmer, ladies and gentlemen, College Hoops Digest writer, really can't thank you enough for joining me here, buddy, tonight. The day after Memorial Day really has gotten a lot better. It is Doubleheader Tuesday. Again, I can't thank you enough for taking more than an hour here with us on the Eastern Observer and the Primetime Rundown Zoom interview series, and joining me here following your 2-hour trek back up to Rhode Island, again, on a gorgeous day. I can only imagine, you got the windows down, sunroof open, whatever it may be, and just blasting music on a gorgeous, gorgeous day on the turnpike. That's for sure, I would assume, right? So this weekend I had spent between Rhode Island and Massachusetts. My friend actually just moved up on a lake in Massachusetts. And I really shouldn't be saying this because the governor of Rhode Island is going to call me up and ask me why I'm not adhering to the executive order, but we'll cut that out. Right. Came back, threw on some, I made 2 pit stops on the way, dropped off some homemade beer to my coworkers, because God only knows when I'm going to see them again for sure. So we don't know. We don't have a date where we're going back to the office, and we're doing well as we are. So we're home for the foreseeable future. So needed to make some stops, but right after that, I cranked the windows down and just, drove nice and cruised home. Nothing to hurry for, nothing to go really fast. It was nice to just take in the sunset. I love to hear it, man. But again, ladies and gentlemen, that's Jake Zimmer, College Hoops Digest writer / contributor. Jake, I really appreciate your time. And not only that, we have to have you back on the podcast because we have to speak about college basketball and what has gone on here this afternoon here down in Queens at my alma mater, because things might be starting to explode with some of the fans and the Big East and everything. So we'll have to get you on and discuss that and discuss a lot more Big East basketball for there. But I do want to ask you this one last thing. Where can we find your podcast?
That is available. Spotify is the primary place we're sending everyone now because I don't know what's going on the back end. We're having a little trouble pushing to Apple Podcasts. We're going to get that figured out for you Apple subscribers. Although, damn it, you should really switch to Spotify. Find us there. You can follow on Instagram, as you mentioned, the.bbb.podcast. Twitter is underscores. That's the first time. You should be honored because I got it right. My roommates can be like, what the hell is wrong with you? But
that's fantastic. Jake Zimmer, thank you so much, buddy, for joining me here this evening. And I hope you stay safe. And you obviously you have a spot anytime on the Primetime Rundown. And whenever you like, and you stay safe and you enjoy your treks back and forth from your parents' house to Rhode Island, where you are now.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you. And I would love to come back on soon. So thanks for the hard work that you're doing as well.
Thank you, buddy. Really, really appreciate that. So, ladies and gentlemen, episode number 16 of the Primetime Rundown Zoom interview series will commence again on Thursday, May 28th, starting at 8 p.m. when we welcome former St. John's pitcher Alex Katz, currently now in the Kansas City Royals system. He is one of the Kansas City Royals prospects. So he will be on there starting at 8 p.m. on Thursday night. Also, episode number 5 of the Essential Wrestling Podcast will come back to you next Tuesday, June 2nd, when Tyler Riddell and Al Carl come back on the air. Tuesday, June 2nd, starting at 6 p.m. right here on the Eastern Observer and the Blackjack Media Networks. Ladies and gentlemen, for all of us here at the Eastern Observer, the Blackjack Media Networks, that's Jake Zimmer. I'm Joey Jarzynka. We'll see you next time. Hold on a second. Yes.